Okay, team, let's get started. Welcome to your strategic briefing. Think of yourselves as our lead consultants, brought on for a really critical task, conducting an innovation audit. Our whole goal today is to give you the framework you need to navigate this, super complex world of modern business and, well, to help you avoid some very common and very expensive traps.
So first up, a bit of a cautionary tale. You might remember MoviePass, right? They tried to blow up the cinema industry by going right after the main source of income for giants like AMC. So what happened? Well, AMC just fought back with its own better program. And MoviePass? They just burned through all their cash and completely collapsed. This is a perfect example of what happens when you pick a fight you just can't win. It's the definition of a strategic failure.
And that, right there, brings us to your mission. You need to learn how to spot and, more importantly, avoid this exact kind of trap. Because, true innovation isn't just about being disruptive. It's about being smart, being sustainable, and being strategic. So here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down exactly what the disruption trap is. Then, I'm going to hook you up with your non-disruptive toolkit. From there, we'll jump into the how-to, the audit itself, how to craft your strategic brief, and finally, we'll tie it all together to the big picture, the real why behind all this work.
Okay, let's dive right into our first section, your mission, and really getting a handle on this disruption trap.
So for decades, business pretty much ran on one simple idea: shareholder primacy. All that meant was the only goal was making as much profit as possible for investors. That model? It's basically obsolete now. Today's companies are stuck in what we call a pincer movement. See, on one side, you've got consumers who are demanding way more. They want ethical sourcing, community support, environmental responsibility. And on the other side, you've got the fourth industrial revolution, AI and automation rewriting the rules of the game. So in this new environment, just chasing profits is, well, it's not going to cut it anymore. The way out of this pincer, this squeeze, is through something called non-disruptive creation. And here's the best way to think about it. It's not about fighting for a bigger slice of the pie that's already there. It's about baking a completely new pie. You're creating new markets where there weren't any before. And that leads to this amazing win-win growth without destroying jobs or bankrupting your rivals. This, right here, is the key to thriving.
So if our goal is to bake a whole new pie, how do we actually do it? Well, that brings us right to Section 2. Here we're going to equip you with your non-disruptive toolkit. These are the core concepts you're going to use to get your audit done. This table here really lays out the core difference. It's what's known as the circle theory of growth. And it all boils down to the kind of problem you decide to solve. As you can see, disruptive creation, it focuses on an existing problem, which basically forces a win-lose street fight for customers. But non-disruptive creation, it solves a brand new problem, one people might not even know they have yet. And that creates a whole new market. It's additive, it's positive, it's a win-win scenario. So how do you actually find these new problems? Well, you're going to use 3 lenses. Your first lens is all about a perspective shift. This one is pure mindset. It means you have to question the core assumptions, the things that everyone in an industry just accepts as true. What's that one precious truth you can challenge to unlock something totally new?
Now for your second lens, human focus. This is all about deep observation. You're basically a detective, looking for a specific point of friction that's holding people back. Is it about time? Is it about cost? Is it a lack of access? If you can find that barrier and just get rid of it, you can create a whole new market out of thin air.
And your third and final lens is a structural shift. This one's all about the mechanics of the business itself. Can you maybe unbundle a service, break it down into smaller parts? Or you could look for an asset, either something you can touch or something you can't, like idle warehouse space or even a team's downtime that's being completely underutilized.
All right, so you have your toolkit, you've got your lenses, let's get practical. Section 3 is all about how you actually execute the innovation audit. This is your step-by-step process.
It's a nice, clean, 3-step mission. First, you're going to select 2 of the case studies we've provided. Second, you'll perform the audit using those 3 lenses we just talked about to find the opportunity triggers. And third, you'll map everything you find onto a strategic matrix to really visualize your results.
And this right here is your strategic matrix. It's a super powerful way to map out your approach. So on the horizontal axis, you have your market entry strategy. Are you being confrontational, directly challenging the big players like Uber did with taxis? Or are you being avoidant, creating a new space that doesn't really threaten anyone directly? Then on the vertical axis, you've got stakeholder impact. Are you creating backlash and fear? Or are you creating support and safety? The sweet spot, the goal, is that bottom right quadrant, where your innovation is actually welcomed, not fought against.
Okay, let's move on to your final output. In Section 4, we're going to cover exactly how to craft your strategic brief, what we're calling the gold standard deliverable. To really understand what gold standard means, let's look at a company called Recyclers. So what does this number, 60%, represent? Well, that's the percentage of people living in Lagos, Nigeria, who had no official trash collection. Why? Because the slum roads were too narrow for the city trucks. This was a massive, ignored problem that Recyclers decided they were going to solve. So your brief needs to follow this structure. First, you're going to analyze the cause and effect. For a company like Recyclers, how did solving a trash problem lead to this amazing, non-disruptive growth? Second, you evaluate the strengths. Why did their avoidance strategy create so much social and political support? And finally, you discuss the bigger picture. To what extent is this model a really solid solution for the challenges of our time?
And finally, let's bring this all back to the why. Because this assignment isn't just some exercise. It's really about developing a modern philosophy of leadership.
You see, the old way of thinking was that social good was just an expense. The new way is something called the DNA helix model. And it argues that economic and social good are totally intertwined. You can't separate them. You don't make a profit and then do some good as an afterthought. No, you achieve huge social benefits through the very act of making a profit, by solving real, unaddressed human problems. And you know what? This work connects directly to your IB learner profile. You're being principled by moving past those outdated profit-only models. You're being balanced by weighing both the economic and the social outcomes. And you're being risk-takers by having the courage to choose the path of creation over simple, brute force disruption. So, I'll leave you with one final question to think about. If the problem you choose to solve truly determines the path and the outcome, then to what extent can we really know or predict the long-term social consequences of a new technology before we let it loose on the world? Answering that, well, that's the central challenge for your generation of leaders. That concludes your briefing. Good luck, consultants.